Hey everyone, welcome back to Movie Studio. Today I'm here to review When Calls the Heart, Season 12, Episodes 5, 6, and 7. Now, I'm sorry I fell behind, but I had my senior project, and that went really well. But I kind of got behind with certain TV shows, When Calls the Heart being one of them. And then, of course, both Cobra Kai and Sweet Magnolias came out around the same time, so I was trying to watch those as well. I'm still not done with Sweet Magnolias yet. That probably I'll post a review probably in a few weeks, early March or so. And then Cobra Kai, my review, I posted earlier in the week. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and get this video out and just go ahead and compile it all into one and talk just a little bit about each episode. Some of these I thought there were a lot of fillers and not a whole lot to talk about, but episode 5 is called Mom's the Word. And basically, in this episode, the main plot line, I would say, is Elizabeth is starting a new curriculum, and it is basically kind of project-based learning, also curriculum driven by the students' curiosity and combining every single subject into, like, one project. And my mom found this interesting because she's a teacher, and I kind of wish I had her on here to hear her perspective of this, because she taught at a special needs school where there wasn't really an exact curriculum to follow, and she liked doing this type of stuff that Elizabeth is doing, going out in nature and combining different subjects together. And honestly, I think there is effectiveness to this curriculum style, and it definitely works on kids like Allie, who is a bit like all over the place with her mind. So, I'm liking the storyline for Elizabeth. It's still different than what we're used to seeing from her, but we're also seeing her both back in the classroom, but also out of the classroom with her students. But I like that they brought back her teaching to the centralness of her character, and that is what I do like, because they have veered away from that at times, but I'm glad that they have brought that back into the forefront. But Nathan is going undercover. Basically, they found out from Jed that he got the coin from Toddy Davis during a poker game in Union City. And so Rosemary, Bill, and Nathan decide that they have to go undercover to get more information out of Toddy. Well, Nathan is the one that goes undercover, and there's this hilarious sequence where they dress him up. And I thought that was just hilarious. And so he goes. There's also this whole plot line with Allie, and ever since her and Wyatt danced to her party, she's been trying to pursue a relationship with him, but both Nathan and Elizabeth are kind of weary, just because of Wyatt's past, especially because Elizabeth knows him when she had him in school. Allie just thinks they're both being unreasonable. And then Nathan, is going undercover, so Elizabeth kind of has to deal with that. Basically, by the end of it, though, Wyatt tells Allie he just likes her as a friend. It completely breaks her heart. And then Elizabeth tells her, she's had her heart broken too. But like, I also kind of like that she didn't just tell her to get over it. She says it's going to take time to heal, and that's okay. So I really like that conversation between the two. And Elizabeth says, how about you just start calling me Elizabeth instead of Mrs. Thornton? And Allie says, okay. So that was like a beautiful conversation at the end that I really did like. And her storyline with heartbreak kind of continues into the next episode as well, which makes sense because it's not like a one and done thing. Basically, in Union City, Nathan meets Toddy, and he goes under the alias of Danny DeMarco, a rare collector / person interested in coins. So far from the Nathan that we know, but I think that's kind of the point. Basically, they're able to get Toddy's contact info out of him through Nathan. It doesn't get a lot of progress in this episode, but it does continue into the subsequent episodes. But, it was interesting seeing Nathan in a new world. It just seems like so much like what Lucas would do. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing Lucas on horseback and lassoing the calf last episode, and then seeing Nathan this episode doing this, it's like they swap roles a bit. And I do like it when, writers do that, is that they take two completely different characters and sometimes have them swap spots and roles, and it ends up like being really cool. And that's exactly what's going on with Nathan and Lucas in these episodes. So Fiona also returns in this episode, and it's always nice to see her back because she brings such a fun and kind of youthful energy to the show, in my opinion. But she has like a lot of news with her. First of all, she brings this heiress named Ava, who apparently all of her like trunks and belongings were stolen at the train station. And it's a very similar story to Elizabeth's. And when she introduces her to her, she says, "I've read your book," and she wants to become a teacher. And it's just oddly coincidental that this girl wants to be exactly like Elizabeth. Now, I don't trust Ava, and partly because it's the same actress who plays Polly from Riverdale, and I can never trust Polly. So just something about this actress, just now, I think every time I see her in something, I'm just not going to trust her. I think it would have been cool to see Henry interact with Ava, just because they were both on Riverdale, and I know for a fact that they interacted some on that show, because Polly was always getting in trouble, and Henry was the sheriff on that show. But apparently Fiona is dating this guy, and he's proposed to her twice, and she's turned him down both times. But sounds like she's actually going to accept it, and she's going to sell the salon. Now, this seems like such a contrast to what we know of Fiona, because what we know of Fiona is, she's very independent and doesn't need a man. And I will not say she doesn't need a man. She could still have a man. It just, we're so used to seeing her not in that way of being, in this situation. So it's just very different than the Fiona that we know of. But I'm almost wondering, maybe she thinks she'll be more successful if she's married. And, the suffragist movement, she's successful, but maybe she's hit a roadblock there. Maybe she is still undervalued in that field. So maybe she thinks getting married will help her chances there. It's hard to tell. Regardless, though, her dilemma with this is carried into these episodes. Then the other plot line is Lucas and Lee. Their whole rivalry, in quotations, has reached a breaking point when Lucas has decided that he's allowing shared use and for the cattle to roam free over the national park. And Lee is very upset with this idea. Personally, I was just on Team Lucas because it seemed like it was out of his control. If he had plans to put this park on this specific land, and he had no idea about the ranchers until Edie came to tell him. So, I think he's making the most of what he has, because it's either this or he looks for a completely new area. So I don't know. But basically, both Joseph and Mike work together to kind of get Lucas and Lee back on good terms. And basically, Lucas and Lee do, and they realize that their, friendship's more important than this, and that Lee agrees to support Lucas through his decisions, but Lucas appreciates being called out on them as well. So it was a nice wrap-up to their whole rivalry and getting them back on the same side again. Now, we don't really see Lee helping him all that much in the next two episodes, but I'm sure he will at some point. I don't know. I would like to see Lee help him, and Henry too. As he gets deeper into this whole Edie plotline and the National Park plotline. I assume that's going to be reaching ahead and episodes after the ones I discussed today. But I thought episode 5 was pretty good. Not my favorite. Actually, now that I think about it, it probably actually was my favorite out of the 3. I liked episode 7 a lot too. It's more episode 6 that was more of a filler. But episode 6 is called When Autumn Leaves Begin to Fall. And basically this episode, the main plotline is that Elizabeth is sick, and she's having these weird dreams about Nathan all episode. And it's mostly feeding into that one fan base that ships Nathan and Elizabeth so hard and thinks Kevin McGarry is like the most attractive man on the planet. And like they love that. They ate that stuff up. But that was funny. All those dreams were funny. And, I don't think we've seen actually, I think we've seen Elizabeth sick before, I want to say. Like, earlier on. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to remember. But regardless, though, those scenes were funny. And we also have Allie wrestling with her heartbreak. She's very upset about the cattle and the stream situation. Basically, the cattle are kicking, or the cows are kicking dirt into the stream, which makes it contaminated, so the fish won't spawn. She's very upset about this. Oliver is like going with her to explore. They end up trespassing on that land, on McGinty's land or whatever, and I think this is going to be a bigger issue. And I do have a lot of thoughts on this whole and the mystery of the season that I'll share at the end of this video, after we talk about all the information provided. But Allie presents this to Lucas because Rosemary, who's substituting for Elizabeth, has all the students debate Lucas on the radio, and Allie says, the fish need to spawn, you need to come up with a solution, and Lucas says, he'll take it to heart. This leads into the next episode as well. But you could tell Allie was very passionate about it, and I think this was also feeding into her heartbreak. What happened with Wyatt was a real blow to her, and now she's looking, for purpose, and she's found it through this, so she's taking it very seriously. So I thought that scene where she was talking to Lucas on the radio was actually a really well done scene, because you could tell that she just lost, and that she thinks, oh, not that my heart can be repaired from this, but maybe my soul can be repaired if I put everything I have into this and can get something in return, getting a solution to this whole issue. I actually like that. But basically, Bill and Georgie, we meet Georgie. This is Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie. And my mom watched Little House on the Prairie, so she knew who she was. But basically, they're working together on this whole thing. Now that Nathan has gone undercover and talked to Toddy, they basically still think the Garrison Gang is involved. And I think that's the assumption with all of this. And they're going to go talk to one of the Garrison Gang members in jail. Now, through this, there's sparks that fly between Bill and Georgie. Now, it's hard to tell, is something going to happen between them? Because I thought she was just in 2 episodes. But unless, actually, I mean, she wasn't in episode 7, so I'm going to assume she's back in a later episode. Now, I don't know, does this mean there's going to be a relationship between them? I don't know if Melissa Gilbert's around to stay. I would love it if she was, but I also saw there's a Little House on the Prairie reboot starting, so I don't know if Melissa Gilbert's going to be in that or not. Regardless, though, I think they're cute together, and I've been wanting Bill to have a good relationship, and it seems like this could be the best option for him out of every single person that we've seen on this show before. So I'm very hopeful that that thing can work out. Now, I do think the Garrison Gang's behind it, but again, I'll have this theory I'll share at the end with all of that. But Fiona is also still debating the marriage proposal. Joseph tells her that, it should require sacrifice, but not too much sacrifice to make this decision. She shouldn't have to sacrifice everything to get married to this man. And by everything, he means her life in Hope Valley as well as the salon. And I think his words kind of weigh on her into next episode, and I assume the one after that, as, she finally starts making these big decisions in her life. Now, in this episode, at the end, Ava gets a trunk, and Lee gives it to her, and it's supposedly her things, but then she closes it real quick, and it's clear that this is not her trunk. Now, this does not get resolved, but I think a string throughout this is we're not supposed to trust Ava. There's something up with her. We don't know what yet. I'm not sure. She might be connected to this whole mystery, but I'm thinking it's just actually this own thing where maybe she was in a toxic situation or whatever. I don't really know, though. They've done that plenty of times before, so I'm not sure. But Allie and Oliver also have a cute conversation where he says that apparently his mom is in jail and that he never had a birthday party growing up. And then they split a cupcake in half, which was really sweet. And I'm liking them together. I think they're really cute. I'm hoping that they can work something out, even though I think it might cause some tension because of Nathan and all of that. But they're cute together. So episode 6 was good. I think it was a lot of filler, but I liked the Bill and Georgie. And then the dreams were pretty funny too. So episode 7 is called Dance the Night Away. And in this episode, there's a few plot lines, basically, I would say two big ones. One is Nathan and Elizabeth are going out on a date night to a movie, and they run into Toddy and Trucy Davis. Now, they had no plans to run into them, but basically they have to really quickly put up their undercover disguises as Danny and Diane DeMarco. And Elizabeth has to come up with this whole story to Trucy about how her and Nathan met, saying that she auctioned off of him and that they were high school sweethearts. And they have kind of trouble keeping their story straight, and Toddy can see through it. But regardless, the ending, Nathan kind of gets what he wants because he notices his Toddy's watch. We find out he got it from and some coins from a rancher a few valleys away from Benton Hills, which we assume is Hope Valley. So, here is my ultimate thing. Actually, we got to talk about Edie first. But regardless, though, the Elizabeth and Nathan scenes were really cute in this episode, as crazy as it was to see them in this setting. When Nathan talks about how he realized when he fell in love with her was such a good scene, and it really warmed my heart too. It's just, I love them together so much, and I'm loving their storyline in this season. It's just great to see them on these adventures and everything, and growing and learning together. It's just great. And then we also have Lucas, and this is where I'll share everything, but basically he is considering this land proposal for the cows to take a different path towards the stream, so the fish can still spawn there, and this is Allie and Oliver's request. Now, Lucas is considering it, but Edie tells him to turn it down, and it's apparently client confidentiality. So, like, I'm thinking, who is she representing? We know she's a lawyer. Is she representing one of the Garrison Gang members? And that's very possible, too. Now, I'm thinking that the gold is hidden underneath the land somewhere that Lucas is building that national park on. And I think that, because Toddy says that he got the coin and the watch from a rancher, and he has since passed. Now, we know that Edie's uncle has passed. So I'm thinking it's the same guy, and that it's all connected to this land right here. That makes the most sense to me, and then it's all going to come to a head that apparently there is treasure built under this land where Lucas is building the national park on, and this is going to create a conflict. The Garrison Gang members are involved too, because Edie's representing one of them. And yeah, at least to me, that's what makes the most sense. Now, I could be completely off, but I wouldn't be surprised, because they always bring in so many elements and then they tie them together. So that makes the most sense to me. Sorry, I'm getting kind of tired. I'm going to try to finish this out. So we also have Rosemary putting on a play in this episode, and it's the importance of being earnest. And she has Mike, Bill, and Lee in roles. And these scenes are just hilarious. Seeing the men of Hope Valley in these roles is just awesome. Turns out that Ava apparently knows this film by heart, and she wants to have a role in it. Now, Rosemary doesn't really trust Ava, but she also feels a bit threatened by her too. And, Lee says that no matter what you decide to do, it doesn't diminish the fact of how important you are and how great you are. Such a great scene. I love them together. But basically by the end, Rosemary decides, okay, I'll give her a role. Now, do I think she should give her a role? Probably not, because I don't trust her. And I don't really have a theory. I mean, she could be connected. Maybe she could be Toddy and Trucy's daughter for all we know. I don't know. But I don't think they mention anything about having a kid. They don't actually seem like the type to have a kid, but that doesn't mean that they don't. So it's just hard to tell. She might be connected, but she could also just be her own person with just a shady past, and I don't know. Or just a wannabe Elizabeth, and just maybe she's just searching for purpose and a town that she can, settle in, maybe after past trauma. It's hard to tell. We'll see what happens with her, though. And then Fiona gets a sale for the salon, and it's officially sold. So now I think the last strat of this whole thing is for her to decide whether she wants to accept the marriage proposal or not. My guess is she's going to turn it down, but she's still going to leave Hope Valley. So there you have it. There's episodes 5, 6, and 7. Sorry, it's a lot, but now I'm caught up, and I'll be back next week for a review of episode 8. So stay tuned for that. Comment down below. What did you guys think of these episodes? Did you like Elizabeth and Nathan going undercover? What do you think of Bill and Georgie? What do you think's going on with this mystery? Do you trust Ava? What's Fiona gonna do? So many different questions to be answered. It's definitely a good season. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not as invested in this whole scandal of the season. I think I like the last season one better because it was Lucas, and we're interested in Lucas because it's personal. This one's not as personal, but all I'm hoping is that Lucas doesn't end up with a broken heart. I hope that even if Edie is a bit below the level, maybe she could redeem herself, and that they can still be something, because I want Lucas to find happiness. I want all of our characters to find happiness. So I'm hopeful that will happen. But yeah, basically that's it. So I will see you guys next week, and bye everyone.